So, hello folks, welcome to Money Matters, FAFSA 101. We are so sorry. We've had some major technical difficulties. We're not able to get this video to go live. So we're going to record it and post it for you so you can see it later. So we have joining us on the call today, on the session today, Lauren Pacheco. Actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you their jobs. So go right ahead. Take it away, Lauren.
Sure. Hi, I'm Lauren Pacheco. I'm a senior counselor in the Financial Aid Office working with verification. So helping students who are flagged for verification of your forms that go along with the FAFSA. Yeah, Lauren Pacheco, good to see everybody.
My name is Chris Ratliff. I'm the Assistant Director for Federal Processing. And Lauren and I handle most all the FAFSAs that come in the office, and any problems or any situations that come with the FAFSA. So you were joined by two experts in the application and the infinite wisdom of Deborah. So we should be able to go through this. We know that normally on the Facebook Live, you will be able to ask questions and we can answer those directly. The most important part of tonight is really just to go through what is the FAFSA and what you will need to get together to file it, and most likely file it correctly. So we'll try to at least help you with that bit. And we do have a couple of slides to go through here in just a minute. We'll start off with why do you even have to do this application? And in short, this application is a free application from the federal government to access federal funds to help you pay for college. Rarely does it ever pay all of your college. It's really there to help pay for what you're maybe unable to get to based on your family's income or family situation. It is free. The F in FAFSA is free. So make sure that you don't go to a site that tries to charge you any money, or I don't believe that you should pay anybody to complete the FAFSA. You're going to complete a lot of different applications here coming up in the next year. And the FAFSA is probably the most simplest one you're going to do, if not the most important, as admissions applications and things like that get a little bit more detailed. But the reason they're asking for this personal information that you'll see in a couple of slides here is they're trying their best to get a snapshot of what your family will be able to afford to help pay for school. And then based on that number, they're going to try to see how much they can help to maximize that. So, you know, if your family makes a lot of money, then you're going to get less money from the federal government. If your family doesn't make a lot of money, the federal government's going to try to help you out to bridge that gap. So we'll be asking for some pretty personal information, as with any federal application, and it'll include tax information, parents' name, parents' social, your information, things like that. So don't be offended by the information it's asking. It's just trying its best to get a snapshot of what your family can afford to pay. And this is based on the student. So always remember that it is the student's financial aid, not the parent's financial aid. So make sure the student is completing it as themselves, unless you're in the parent section where you answer the questions about parents. So we'll hop right into what you're going to need to get started for the application. And we have a couple of slides for that.
Great, thanks for starting. I know that we've got the intro here. So today's the day, October 1st, our big push to start talking about the FAFSA as we are, but October 1 is a day you want to save, at least for now, every year, big star on the calendar, applying for the following school year, 2021-2022.
This is now an important date for you.
Yes, October 1 is going to be something to remember every year that you're preparing to be in school again for that following school year. Thanks, Deborah, for taking it back. So I just wanted to reiterate that, we're celebrating this day and happy to talk about it as we're all geeked out about October 1st in financial aid. If you ever want to ask anybody anything, it's about filing FAFSA October 1 as soon as you can. So when we lead off into that checklist of what you will need and things to gather as you prepare to file this application, the free application for federal student aid, You're going to need an FSA ID, so Federal Student Aid ID, both the student applying and the parent, if you're a dependent student and required to use parent information. So you both need an FSA ID, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about what that is, but you use it to essentially identify yourself and log into the FAFSA. The following school, or the upcoming school year, 2021-2022, will use tax information from the year 2019. So you want to gather your tax forms, your wage statements, your W-2s from work that you had in 2019. So they do want to use a year that is completed. It's easier to do an application with tax and wage information that's available. Again, we're in 2020, for example, so this year has not finished. So they look to an older year. So the next FAFSA that you're going to be doing will look at 2019 tax and income info. You'll also need your social security number, and your parent will as well. So you'd want to have those handy. Your driver's license number, so you'd want your ID near you. Alien registration number if you are not a US citizen. There are types of eligible non-US citizens who can complete an aid application. So you want to have your A number. And records of untaxed income. So for example, we have child support, looking at other benefits you might receive, disability benefits, records of that so that you can answer these questions based on your specific paperwork, along with asset information. So it does ask about cash, checking, savings, your investment net worth, real estate, not the house you live in. So information, if that applies to you, that you want to have gathered up to answer those questions accurately.
So this is the, Lauren mentioned the FSA ID earlier. And so this is more or less just a rundown of how to set that up. You would go to fsaid.ed.gov. It's a username and password combination that lets you sign the FAFSA, access other federal websites so that you can complete some of those other processes. So this is important. As we talked about last week, this is information that is tied to your personal information, your date of birth, social security number. So you want to secure that. You want to keep that in a really secure place so that you don't share that and you don't lose it, because it's really important that you use that throughout the year and throughout your college years as you're accessing these federal sites.
And we found that this is probably one of the biggest stumbling blocks for parents and students. The FAFSA itself and the application, you're really just copying information from a tax return and things like that. But if you key in your social security number wrong or birth date wrong or can't answer the questions correctly, this really can mess things up. And the first person you should call is FAFSA itself, as the school can't help you much at all with correcting this information. So this is all through FAFSA. So make sure you do this before you submit it.
And I'll note one more thing about that too. So it did, it's a unique ID. The student needs one, the parent needs one. But just to stress, using an email address that you will have access to for years to come. So it's, again, especially for rising high school seniors, you have your school address, or if you're a transfer student, you have your previous college's email address, which probably is the most useful for gaining information as you're keeping current with this, but you want to use an email that you'll have access to for longevity.
This is not the place to put the junk email in that you use
right.
for websites and stuff like that.
Exactly. You and your parents should have a separate email address. Even though the parent's heavily involved in this process, you each need a unique login, and you don't want to lose access to it because you'll use it every time you do the FAFSA. So make sure it's like your Gmail account or Hotmail account or something that you will have access to for the time that you are managing your financial aid, which can be long past your college years.
And things to note on this slide is you can see in the top left, it says an official website of the United States government. They're putting that on there because there are scam websites that's trying to get this information from you. So.
True.
So again, when you come to this website, if you are a brand new applicant, and this is the case for most of our prospective students, you would click on the link that says start here and then log in and start the FAFSA the first time. If you are a continuing student, Or if you filed a FAFSA last year, you will continue as a returning student. So you will go in and log in here. You can also use this login here link for returning users. If you have started a FAFSA, you've already submitted it, you need to come back and add a school or make corrections. So this is the link you would use to log in, and it will bring up your most recent completed FAFSA application.
Gotcha. Here's some of the bullet points we went over earlier about the FAFSA ID. As you can see, it's very important. As I said, this is recorded, so you can go back and look through these slides as needed, other than us going through and reading them for you. But we will try to give you some advice on where you can really mess up at. And for me, I know it happens a lot of times where a student will key their social security number in wrong. And then once they go to their FAFSA to put the information in and use the FAFSA ID, they don't match. So it doesn't allow the student to sign it. And the student is, I know this is my correct social. I don't know why this is working. And that's usually the stumbling block from that.
Yeah,
the mobile app. Oh, go ahead. The mobile app was the next part.
Oh, I was going to say it's important to create those challenge questions. And as Lauren was mentioning about the email address, make sure you verify your email address and your phone number, because if you ever need to reset your password or if you get locked out of your account, the challenge questions or a verified email or phone number will be used to help you reset or to unlock your account. So it's key that you do that. Go ahead and make those challenge questions and make sure it's something you can remember. Make sure those answers are things that you're going to remember. Don't just, put something in there and then, 5 minutes later, you've forgotten what it was. So, but go ahead, Chris, with the mobile app.
It's just saying that you would use the FAFSA ID to use the mobile app too. And it opens up a lot of resources that you can gain through the mobile app, which is highly recommended. And that seems to be where the people at FAFSA are really pushing all the students to go through.
Yeah, everybody has a smartphone, so it's really a good idea to download it, especially for our current students. If you're on campus right now or you're not at home, you can go ahead and download that mobile app, get it started, save it, and then your parents can log in on their computer and go in and enter their information. So that way you don't have to be being a part is not a deterrent to completing the FAFSA.
It's true. A lot of these enhancements they've made over the years are springing from that. They understand you're not always, directly next to your parent while you're completing this. So being able to save return before you submit through the app, having that easy access on your phone, resets with the phone number and email, as Deborah stressed. Those are all fairly new and have made it much easier to complete despite, the time it might take in gathering your info. They try to make the process more smooth while, keeping in mind, yes, people have to reset passwords and, they might be using their mobile phone and be away from their parents. So over the years, you might see some changes related to the FAFSA, but these are some best practices.
Yeah, Chris,
things to have handy here, as you can see in the bullet points, is the tax return, other types of income, and asset information. The tax return, I know when you look at it, it's pretty confusing. There's a lot of different numbers on there, and it can be intimidating to try to go through it. But the FAFSA is going to give you exact line numbers for the 2019 tax return. It also gives you pop-ups if you're like, I have no idea what that means. If you'll hover over it, and it'll pop up and kind of give you a little bit more in-depth explanation of what this is looking for. If you don't know what it's talking about or never heard anything that it's asking for, it's probably zero. So they're not thinking that you have all of this stuff. They're just trying to figure out what you do and what you don't. You know your situation better than anyone. The FAFSA was just trying to capture that.
And another, going back to, I think Lauren pointed out on the asset information, you don't include your main family home. You also want to remember that you don't include any retirement plans. So the total amount or the balance of your retirement accounts do not get reported on the FAFSA. So be mindful of that.
Yeah, don't want to penalize you for those two things, definitely.
Yeah.
I'll say, if I can, just one thing about that too is often for a continuing student, one of the other types of income that we see answers reported in that may not apply, and that might surprise you is grants in your adjusted gross income. So just a note for continuing students, just receiving financial aid, you don't have to go back and report, this is all the financial aid I received, or these are all the Pell Grant amounts that I received in the year you're asking about. It's just a common misunderstanding. If you file your taxes and you involve financial aid in a way that you've paid specific attention to that, some of that might be what you would be reporting on the FAFSA if you took special attention and care with a tax professional to complete your taxes with that in mind. But in most cases, you are not reporting your grants from federal student aid on the FAFSA from year to year. Just a tip for something that we see fairly often.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fair to give you money and then make you report it as
income. Right. It's not all taxable, and it's it's not asking for those general types.
Yeah, and I think what Lauren is talking about, there are some scholarships, some forms of scholarships that may be taxable, but again, work with your tax professional, and you'll get tax documents from the school that will explain, what's been paid, what's paid to you, and we're getting way into some weeds here right now, but just keep that in mind that typically you will not need to report any of your federal grants on your tax return. There are some other types of scholarships that could be reported, but again, your tax professional, and also the IRS has a lot of publications that explains educational benefits and how they are handled on your tax return. So that's a really good piece to take a look at. All right, so Chris, you want to talk us through this next steps? What happens?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is where if you are attending UNCG or any school, there's these next steps that happen with the Financial Aid Office. So first off, the FAFSA isn't the first and only step. There's going to be some other information and communication between you and FAFSA, and also going to be between you and the university. So as soon as you submit the FAFSA, you're going to get some sort of feedback from them. It's going to say to your email address, you've submitted this. It's going to give you your expected family contribution, which is a formula number that the school uses to build financial aid around. And then if you are selected for verification or need some sort of extra information, or the FAFSA was rejected, it's going to tell you in that student aid report. And I think we're going to go over those later on in the series. We'll go a little bit more in depth with those. But submitting signature pages. Remember that the financial aid is based off of the student's information, which means if the student is a U.S. citizen, you are eligible for federal financial aid. If your parents are not U.S. citizens, that does not stop you from being able to get federal financial aid. But what it does hinder is your parent may not have a social security number. They may have a tax ID number or neither. So the parent would need to submit the signature page, which is where they actually signed a form instead of being able to use the FSA ID. So the FAFSA, you will need to print that form out, that signature page out, have your parents sign it, and then submit that back to FAFSA as the signature page. So don't let that hinder anything with you submitting the FAFSA. As far as verification, information you're putting on the FAFSA is seeing if you're eligible to receive federal financial aid, and then if you are, what is the amounts of tax information or household verification that goes along with it. As you can see in the bullet points there, tax information, citizenship. So if you key in an answer wrong, then it's now to the school to verify that information to see what the right answer is. So you may have to submit additional documentation. Now, you're never going to submit documentation that you didn't use for the FAFSA. It's all going to be based off information that you used to complete your FAFSA. You'll have to submit that to the school. The school will make the adjustments and then correct your FAFSA for you. The SAR will come in the mail, and you'll also be emailed that information, if I'm not mistaken. And then as a special circumstances, as we know with any application, everybody doesn't fit in this box completely. We are aware of all the different situations you, your family, or your family situation could be in that may not be reflected in FAFSA. Now, that burden falls back onto the school to make those adjustments. So if you do have some special circumstances, or when you're filling out the FAFSA, you're like, you know what, this doesn't accurately reflect my family because of whatever that you want to put in there, that's when you're going to contact the school directly. We'll talk about that more around October 15th. Spring awarding timelines. So I assume after you complete your FAFSA, your next question is how much money am I getting and how much is it going to cost? That's going to have to wait a little bit. You have to manage the expectations of when things are going to happen. You need to get the FAFSA filed as soon as possible, starting from October 1st. Each school has its own priority filing dates, and that varies, so you want to make sure with the school that you're getting this done. But the information you're submitting is based off of right now or 2019 tax information, so you should be able to do it October 1st, no problem. Not something you want to put to the side. Once that's submitted, then you got to wait for the school to get that information. We don't get it directly. We want, for us at our office, we won't get that information until probably the end of October. And then we have to run it through a lot of tests to make sure that it corrects. And then once you're completed the FAFSA, I always say that your next step is to start dealing with the admissions process. So submit your FAFSA, see if there's anything you need to do extra with them, and then start working on your admissions. And then we'll be in contact with you a little bit sooner over the summer. Or if you're coming in for the spring semester, we'll be in contact with you pretty soon.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris, on the timeline, because in many cases you are thinking, well, I filed the FAFSA and, I should be hearing, pretty soon how much I'm going to be getting. For our prospective students, yeah, and it is. It really is a fair question. For our prospective students, one of the things that we want you to remember is, in order to file the FAFSA, you don't have to be admitted to college, but you do have to be admitted before financial aid can be offered to you. So that's why we're telling you, go ahead and file the FAFSA now, even if you don't know what school you're attending, or even if you haven't submitted your admissions application, it's fine. You can go ahead and submit the FAFSA, get your admissions information done as Chris indicated. And then once you are admitted, then the schools will send you out your financial aid award information. So don't wait until you've done your admissions application and then do the FAFSA. Go ahead and do the FAFSA now. You can take care of any outstanding documents, anything, any additional information, or make sure that everything is accurate, make any corrections. And then when you have, narrowed down your schools and you've got admitted, then you'll be getting your award information from those schools that have admitted you. And then you can compare if you need to. Lauren, do you have anything you wanted to add?
You guys are doing a really great job at covering it. No, just, that same reiteration of do the FAFSA now. A lot of students and families that we speak to have held off for various reasons, or they're trying to, again, find out more information about the next steps before they've finished the application. So if you have questions about how to do the application, reach out to a financial aid office like at UNCG, reach out to the Federal Student Aid Office, 1-800-4-FED-AID, 433-3243. So those are avenues that you want to complete your FAFSA. I'm just stressing that again, as soon as you can. And you want it to be as correct as you can in that time frame as well. But if something comes up later, we can correct things as they arise. But getting it done, accessing people who can help you while you're trying to get it done are very important steps not to miss. We're here for that reason.
Okay, so I think if I can get to the next slide. So if you have questions, this is how you can reach out to the Financial Aid Office at UNCG. Our phones are open 9 to 4, Monday through Friday. You can also send us an email and we will do our very best to address your issues that way. Now, we don't have walk-in hours. You have to have an appointment. For our continuing students or current students, you can schedule an appointment through Starfish. If you are not a UNCG student and you'd like to set up an appointment, call our office. We'll be happy to go ahead and get that set up for you. You can do a virtual appointment or a face-to-face virtual appointments. That means you don't have to drive anywhere, burn up any gas. You can do it right there from your home or your phone. So give us a call and we can help you set that up. You can also check us out on our website, all of our social media outlets, and we have our chat bot on our website, Mini. So if you have any questions, at night, late at night, when I call it, you wake up at 3 a.m. and you just have a burning FAFSA question that you've got to get it answered right then, go to Minnie. She will help you out. She'll get that answered.
And this
for
would be
you.
my first stop. Would be
Yeah.
typing the message in here. We monitor this. It's a bot, but we closely monitor it. And a lot of the answers we're going to give you, you're going to hear it straight from her. Now, if you're not satisfied with her answer, you can definitely give us a call in.
Yeah. And next week, we're going to talk about not that, but this, being dependent or independent. Who is my parent on the FAFSA? So that is a huge question that comes up a lot. We know that there are a lot of different family configurations and situations, and we want to help you figure that out. So if you have questions about that, am I dependent or independent? That has very specific meanings as it relates to the FAFSA and federal financial aid, and which parent, who is my parent? That is a very specific definition as well, as far as it relates to whose information is required on the FAFSA. So we will cover that next week. All right, so let me stop this and we'll go to our regular scheduled program. And so Chris, Lauren, any last minute
some little bit of advice is, as you said, we know that all families don't fit in this box, and I think between all of us, even in our school, we've seen just about every situation you can throw at it. So don't be afraid to ask. There's a lot of qualified people. We are there Monday through Friday to answer questions. So don't be discouraged about asking any question, as I'm pretty sure we're going to have an answer. And if we don't have an answer, we have contacts in the federal government to ask them what their answers are going to be for that situation. I mean, that goes for anything with admissions or financial aid or paying the bill or anything like that. The university has a dedicated staff that is there for their students and their families to help them out in any situation. So don't be afraid to ask.
Yep. Go ahead, Lauren.
I was gonna say, I completely agree. And, it's hard. There are sometimes reservations about discussing your personal situation with somebody who's new and reaching out to different schools. You might be applying to more than one. But again, our office is always happy to help. If you have a student ID and PIN number, we'll ask for that and look at, where you are in your application for admission and what that relates to in terms of what you've done with your FAFSA. But general questions about, again, how to proceed on the FAFSA or feeling like you don't fit into a box are things that we want to help you navigate so that you can complete that application and that we can get you an answer. So we're always happy to help. And as Chris said, everybody's different and we have seen it all. So we're going to be able to help you, and you won't be hitting a brick wall when it comes to any frustrations, hopefully, if you can reach out. We're not scary. Even if money stuff can be.
Well, again, we thank you for viewing this video, and we apologize that we were not able to come to you live and get your questions directly and be able to answer those in real time. But this video is going to be posted so that you can go back and review it. We hope that you will join us on our next live event.
See you next week.
We're going to track down the culprit in that technical glitch and get that fixed. So again, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please reach out to the UNCG Financial Aid Office. And again, I'm Deborah Slade.
Lauren.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks,
And
everyone.
bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.